So in the previous video, we talked about two ways of expressing an equation of a line. One of them is the slope-intercept form, and the other one is the point-slope form. Now let us look at some examples. I like to broadly classify these examples into four types, so I'm going to show you all the four types. Let us start with the first one. The first one, what is already given to us is this information. M equals to 1/5, which means the slope of this line is 1/5. And then what the other piece of information which is provided is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 0 and -3. So this is already given to us. And we want to write an equation of a line given these two pieces of information. So as soon as we see what is provided to us, we go back and we ask ourselves which one of these two would be the easiest way of expressing this equation. You can use any one that you like, but looking at the given information, it seems reasonable that we should use the number one, because in the number one we have what we need to actually write the equation is the slope and the y-intercept, and both of these things are provided here. So it makes sense to actually use the number one. Let's go ahead and use the number one. So first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write the general form. I always like to start by actually writing the formula or the general form and then substitute or fill in the values for what constants that are already provided. So y equals to mx plus b. So y equals to, for m, we are going to replace or substitute that by 1/5. X stays as it is, and then the y-intercept, this coordinate gives me the value for the b, which is the y-intercept here, so it's -3. This would be the equation of a line. We would still be able to get this equation if we use number two, but it's easier and convenient and quicker to use number one here. So type one, if you have the slope and y-intercept, just quickly use the slope-intercept form and get the equation. Okay, let's quickly talk about type two. For type two, I have something slightly different. So what I have here is like a graph. So this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, and this is the line. So what I do first is I identify any 2 points on this line. So I'm identifying this point, but this is a special point. It is the y-intercept because it is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. And the coordinates of this point are 0 and 4. Obviously the x coordinate is going to be 0, and then my y coordinate is 4. And then the other point that I'm going to identify here, well, you are free to identify any 2 points, but it's going to be easier for us if we identify the y-intercept, and then I'm going to identify another point here, 1 and 1. Okay, so we have 2 points, and I also have my y-intercept. And based on that information, I want to write an equation of a line. So let's go ahead and try to see what we can do here. I have my y-intercept, which is 0 and 4. Of course, the b value would be simply 4. And then the other thing that I need, in both the cases, the other thing that I need to write an equation of a line is the slope. But I don't have my slope right now. So my goal is first to find or evaluate the slope, and once I have the slope, then I can use any of these equations to actually write the final equation for this line. Okay, so to find the slope, we already know the formula to calculate the slope, which is the change in y over change in x. So it's y2 minus y1. Guys, always please first write the formula and then substitute the values. By doing that, you will avoid making any mistakes. Once you are very confident doing this, then you can probably skip some steps, but initially please try to make a habit of writing the steps. So this is my x1, y1, and this is my x2, y2. I like to label these y2 minus y1. So it is 1 minus 4, and then x2 minus x1 is 1 minus 0. Once we simplify this, it's -3 over 1, or I can simply say that my slope is -3. I have my slope and I have my y-intercept b. Again, it takes us back to kind of type 1. When you have a slope and when you have the y-intercept, then which is the best way of, or quickest way of writing the equation? Again, it would be number 1. So let's go ahead and write the final equation of this line. So the equation would look like y equals to mx plus b. y equals to m is -3, well, x stays, and then I have my y-intercept, which is +4. So this is the final equation for this line. So guys, type 1, slope is given, y-intercept is given, easy, use the slope-intercept form, substitute the values for m and b, you have the equation. Type 2, when you have a line, a graph, and you try to first identify the y-intercept, if you can actually see the y-intercept, identify the y-intercept. In this case, we were able to identify the y-intercept, which means we have the b. Then identify any other point. I just chose this point just for convenience. Once I have these 2 points, you go ahead and find the slope. Once you have the slope and the y-intercept, then you can go back and use the slope-intercept form. Okay, so this is type 1. Type 2, in the next video we're going to talk about type 3 and type 4, and it's going to get more interesting. Okay.